So you bought a brand new Taurus G3c and you have this. Hey guys, how's it going? So I've had a question come up in my comments several times, and since it just came up again today, I thought I would do this video. And this is basically to help the new pistol owner if they're new to the Taurus G3c or even some other very common firearms that are going to operate in a similar fashion. And if you guys have been around guns forever and you know more about them than me, which a lot of you do, maybe you could share this with a friend that's new and has this question, because I haven't seen a lot of videos on YouTube lately about this topic. So let's start off right at the beginning here. Somebody said they had a brand new Taurus G3c, and this is my brand new Toro. It's never been fired, and they said, is it normal for the barrel to jiggle around and be really loose? So I said, is this with the slide locked to the rear or with it in battery forward? And they said, no, it's with it locked to the rear. So check this out. Yes, it's very normal. There might be a unique circumstance that I can't see from my side here, but 99.9% of the time, if you have this going on, you're completely fine. And I'm just going to spend a couple minutes trying to explain to you guys why this is, and real briefly how the action of these firearms work. So there's a few exceptions, but probably if you're buying any pistol that's new, unless it's an old milsurp, you're going to have two types of actions, or the way your firearm operates with these handguns. You're going to either have a locked breech, which is the case with this Taurus G3c, or you're going to have what's called a blowback operation. And I'm going to use this burst of thunder concealed carry to demonstrate that. So with the locked breech, what does that mean? Well, first of all, the breech would be the chamber area. That's the rear, okay, of the barrel. And the muzzle, of course, is the business end where the projectile, the bullet, is expelled after the case fires. So locked breech. So we're looking at this end right here. And what that means is when your pistol is in battery, or locked as we would call it, meaning the slide and the breech portion of the barrel hood here are locked up. This is your chamber under here. You're ready to fire. It's in battery, it's locked, right? So right now, we're going to take a look at this chamber hood. I'm going to grab it, and you're going to notice just a minuscule amount of play. And this just has to do with tolerances. This is perfectly fine with this type of firearm. Now, we're going to rack it to the rear, holding it open with a slide catch. You're going to notice instantly it's jiggling all around. And some of you are wondering, is that okay? You're asking me, did you put it together wrong? Is there a malfunction? Do you need to send it back? There's a possibility, but 99% of the time, you're going to be totally fine. This is actually how this firearm is intended to design. So basically, here's what happens. You pull the trigger, assuming there's a cartridge in here, which there's not, it fires, okay? We're going to generate pressure in the chamber here. The bullet is going to expel out of the barrel, okay? And what's going to hold back the pressure just a little while is the fact that your chamber is locked, meaning it fits right up against this portion of the slide here in the front. You can see how it's a nice tight fit there. You're also going to have support here on the sides, but the main locking surface is right up front here. Now, as soon as the pressure starts to build to the point where this can't hold it back anymore, it's going to start to go to the rear, fighting against the spring tension, okay? And then the rear is going to go underneath the top of your slide. Now, if you have a fixed barrel that's straight, for it to be able to drop down, it comes down into a little void that's down below in the frame, and it's going to tip your barrel upwards a little bit. Let me do that for you guys. Watch this barrel as I'm pulling the slide back slowly. See, we already watched the back of it. It's dropping downwards. So see that there? It went down, and then the barrel is going to start facing up to the point where we end up on this angle. Now the pistol is considered unlocked. It's out of battery. Obviously, you can't pull the trigger. If there was a cartridge somehow in here, it would not fire at this point, okay? So basically right now we have an unlocked barrel. It's not supposed to be completely rigid in here. Now you're going to see many firearms with this type design, and you're going to see variances. Some are going to have a little more slop than others, and this just has to do with the design. Sometimes a more tight tolerance pistol might have a little more accurate groupings. Whereas maybe just for overall concealed carry, where if you get a little bit of dirt, now you should always keep your gun clean when you're carrying it, but if there's a little bit of dirt or adverse conditions, whatever, if everything's not super, super tight, the firearm may be able to keep functioning in those adverse conditions. Think the AK rifle with having looser tolerances, standing up to jungle warfare and in the dirt and all these types of things that it's known for. Same thing's going to apply here. There's always a trade-off. And for these, you know, short range, short engagement type concealed carry firearms, we're not going to expect it to be locked up as tight as something that you spent thousands of dollars for or hundreds and hundreds of dollars for that's more, you know, accuracy, bench rest, shooting oriented. So this is a brand new pistol, teeny bit of play here. So it locks up here. It also locks up in one more place. And this will be at the very front. And our slide, this is our barrel bushing portion. So you're going to find a little movement here, but it's not really moving very much at all. This is a tight pistol. It's brand new. Now, if you look here, clearly, you can see there's plenty of room in that hole. This is what I'm calling your barrel bushing portion of your slide. Tons of room for it to move around. But if you look, you can see there's a slight swell at the end of the barrel. Have you guys noticed that? Go check your pistol if you're new to this. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's rather straight. Then at the very end, it kind of humps out a larger radius. And that's to allow it to fit tighter in the front. And that's going to help with your accuracy. So your barrel sitting nice and tight at the very end here near the muzzle. When it goes back into battery, it's just going to fit. And then all of a sudden it gets really snug in the end of your slide because it's a slightly larger radius there. Now there's a lot more stuff I could get into. There's a bunch of little variations of this, but that's basically what we're looking at. We have a locked breech pistol. When it's locked or in battery, I'm using the words as synonyms because they basically mean the same thing. Your breech, your chamber hood there is locked up against the slide. Our barrel is locked up against the outlet there of the slide, your barrel bushing portion for accuracy. I'm going to show you a couple other ones real quick here. This is the 1911. This is the 45 ACP SDS Imports M1911 A1, and it is empty. Now this is also a locked breech, but what we're going to notice is there's going to be a little bit of play here. A little bit, not nearly as much as the Taurus. That's because this uses a different version of the locked breech action. When you take these apart, you can see a big difference. I'm not going to do that here, but still, look at a little bit, right? This uses a barrel bushing insert that you put in the slide. This is removable, okay? And that's why we're not having that larger radius at the end of the barrel abruptly like we do on the Taurus. So it locks up in a little bit different ways, but at the end of the day, there's your barrel bushing that's removable to remove this barrel, and it is going to have, although a lot less, a little bit of play. That's totally normal. That's totally fine. It has to have a little wiggle room when it's in the unlocked position. If not, it just wouldn't work. It has to be able to slide just a little bit to get out of the way for it to unlock itself. Although with the 1911 it unlocks in a different way, a little bit. It's still the same principle as far as you're having a little bit of movement within your barrel there. Now here's a G2c. This is the first one. First Taurus that I ever reviewed on this channel. Go check my Taurus playlist if you're new here. And check it out, guys. Generous amount of movement. Now this has thousands and thousands of rounds. It may jiggle a little more than my brand new G3c that's never been fired, but not much, really. At the end of the day, probably about the same, to be honest with you. So, yeah. Nothing to worry about, guys. That's just how these pistols work. As the breech becomes unlocked and has to go down underneath the slide, there's nowhere for that straight barrel to go but up, and it's just jiggling around in there. And this all happens so fast. See it jiggling? Tight again. I mentioned the blowback pistol. This is the Burst of Thunder, and this is basically off of the old Walther PP or PPK design, right? Like, the old Bond gun, the PPK. Now, the Makarov pistols also share this same type of action in common. And when we say action, that's a fancy word. Action literally just means this, like, how does the gun move? This is the action of the pistol, right? That when you shoot, the recoil unlocks, makes the slide go to the rear. It extracts the case out of the chamber. It ejects it, right? Goes forward, strips off another round, chambers the round or puts it into battery. The gun's locked up, it fires. So just the way all of these parts move and interact with each other, that's what we mean when we say the action of the pistol. Hey, some of you guys have probably never heard it explained, so hopefully it helps. Back to this. This is a straight blowback. So the slide goes to the rear. Completely empty there. The barrel's not going to move at all. Not even a little bit. If you have a pistol like this, this has a fixed barrel. So when you're taking the slide off, field stripping, cleaning, whatever, your barrel's not going to come out like it does with your G3c. It's not going to come out even like it does with your 1911, which is a little different, but your 1911 barrel does come out. This barrel, for all intents and purposes, is permanently attached to your frame. Now, a gunsmith can get in there and drive pins out and press it, and you need usually special tools for this. But for normal purposes, this barrel is permanently attached to the frame. If you notice, as the slide moves back and forth, we're running the action of the pistol right now. Watch the barrel. Stays completely straight. This barrel is not tilting. It's just not how this firearm works. Now, usually you'll find a blowback uses a little bit weaker rounds. 380, smaller, maybe 9mm Makarov would be about the highest end, because once you get more pressure than that, you're basically going to run into a situation where just the recoil spring and the weight of the slide isn't enough to hold it back long enough for the pressure to escape and the bullet to leave the barrel. You're going to need this, we can call it locked breech or modified Browning type action. So yeah, if you have something like this Bursa Thunder specifically, or a Walther PPK Makarov, even High Points use this same type system, and your barrel's loose there, you have a problem, because it's supposed to be pinned in place permanently. So unless you have this, with few other exceptions, but 99% of you, unless you have this type of firearm right here with the blowback operation, you're always going to notice some movement, and it's perfectly normal. It's just how the gun is supposed to be designed, so don't worry about it. Here's the Smith & Wesson SD9VE, another really nice budget firearm. Let's do the same thing. Look at this particular one's not moving as much as the Taurus. Does that mean it's a better gun? No. Now, you might like this better, you might like the Taurus better. That's not what I'm talking about. It's just every manufacturer has their own way to do things. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. See? As this firearm's action is running, we're going to see right there. There's your breech, your chamber hood, we call it. It's locking up here on the slide. As we take it out of battery or unlock it, watch what happens. It dips down. See how it's getting down below? It went down, therefore making the barrel stick up. And again, not as loose as the Taurus, but it's the same exact principle. And you can go through all of your different firearms. Your Glocks will have some play. Basically, unless it has a fixed barrel, perfectly fine. Well, I feel like I could keep going, but I think I covered the basics, so maybe this will spawn some more questions. And hey, I'm out there to try to help the new people and help all you old seasoned veterans have some information that you can pass on to your newer friends, where maybe, you know, you can explain it to them, but it might be easier if they just watch, you know, type of thing. All right. You guys all be safe out there and have fun with your new firearm. And yeah, don't sweat it if your barrel's jiggling a little bit on your new G3c. You're going to be just fine, because once we put it back into battery, we're good to go. All right, thanks for watching and have a good one.